She looked at me as if I'd asked her to explain quantum physics through interpretive dance. We had been on 3 dates. Good dates, or at least that's what I believed. The conversations flowed naturally, the laughter felt genuine, and when I casually suggested we go back to my place for a drink, I was convinced the signs were there. Instead, she smiled, paused, and said something that stayed with me for the next 6 years. You're really nice. Genuinely nice. And that's the problem. For a second, I just stood there trying to process what I'd heard. Nice was the problem. I had been kind, respectful, attentive. I listened carefully. I treated her well. How could those things possibly work against me? She noticed the confusion on my face and softened her words. I just don't feel that sparked. You're amazing. Some girl's gonna be really lucky. It's just not me. It was the classic consolation speech, the emotional severance package handed to people. He did everything right, but still walked away empty-handed. That night I went home and replayed every single interaction. Was I too available? Should I have acted more distant? Did I compliment her too much? Or not enough? Should I have been more confident? More mysterious? More aggressive? Less interested? I had no answers. The more dating advice I consumed, the more confused I became. Be confident, but don't be arrogant. Show interest, but don't look needy. Be yourself, but improve yourself. Be direct, but stay mysterious. Every piece of advice contradicted the last one. It felt like trying to solve a maze where every exit led back to the entrance. Then one simple thought changed everything. Instead of asking men what women wanted, why not ask women directly? Not vague questions like, what do you find attractive? But something much more specific. Can you remember the exact moment someone went from he's nice to I suddenly wanted him? When did the switch actually flip? That question became an obsession. So I decided to run an experiment. For 6 months, I had over 500 face-to-face conversations with women. No anonymous online surveys. No social media polls. I wanted to see their expressions. I wanted to notice the pause before an honest answer. I wanted to catch the exact moment rehearsed responses gave way to real experiences. I introduced it as research for a personal project, which was true and guaranteed complete. Anonymity. That promise made people surprisingly honest. What I discovered over those 6 months completely shattered everything I believed about attraction. More importantly, it explained why being nice had become a problem. Not because kindness is unattractive, but because of what my kindness was hiding, or more accurately, what it was preventing from ever appearing. Before explaining that, I need to destroy a few myths. The first 50 conversations sounded exactly like every dating article I'd ever read. Women talked about confidence, humor, ambition, intelligence, good conversation, physical attraction. On the surface, those answers sounded perfect, but they were also almost useless because they described the qualities women noticed after attraction already existed. They didn't explain what actually created it. Everything changed around conversation number 127 point. Instead of accepting the first answer, I started asking one follow-up question. Yes, but when exactly did you feel it? What happened in that specific moment? That's when the stories became interesting. A guy she'd known for months suddenly became attractive during one random dinner. A coworker she'd worked with for over a year suddenly felt different after a single conversation. Someone she'd been casually dating transformed overnight because of one interaction, again and again. The attraction wasn't gradual. It happened in moments, specific moments. And those moments had almost nothing to do with looks, money, status, or career. Instead, something about the man's presence shifted. Not intentionally. Naturally, her brain simply started seeing him differently. When I kept asking what had changed, the answers became surprisingly consistent. It wasn't because he suddenly acted more confident in the stereotypical sense. It wasn't because he used clever lines. It wasn't because he showed off status. It wasn't because he became mysterious. It wasn't because he played hard to get. In fact, whenever I described those common dating tactics, most women reacted the same way. Honestly, that would be a turnoff. That surprised me, because confidence is presented everywhere as the magic ingredient. But the confidence these women described looked nothing like the confidence taught by dating coaches. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dominant. It didn't demand attention. It was quieter, calmer, internal. By conversation 312, a pattern had become impossible to ignore. Different women used different words, but they all described the same emotional experience. They felt seen without feeling judged. They felt emotionally safe without feeling pitied, They felt understood without someone trying to fix them. Most importantly, they experienced the man as completely present, not distracted, not performing, not trying to impress. Just there. That presence created a very specific kind of safety. Not friendship, not comfort, a deeper kind of safety. The safety to become emotionally vulnerable. And vulnerability, I realized, often came just before desire. That sounds backwards because we've been taught the opposite. Most advice tells men to create tension, stay unpredictable, keep women guessing, don't become too comfortable. But the women I interviewed weren't describing comfort. They were describing something that looked like comfort from the outside, yet felt completely different from the inside. They described being around someone who wasn't trying to get anything from them, someone who didn't need validation, didn't need approval, didn't even need attraction. That's when I finally understood what happened on those 3 dates years earlier. I wasn't simply being nice, I was performing niceness. Every compliment had a purpose. Every question had a strategy. Every story was carefully chosen to make me look attractive. Without realizing it, I was asking for approval the entire time. Maybe she couldn't consciously explain it, but she could feel it. The men who created attraction weren't trying to impress. They weren't trying to earn anything. They were simply curious. They listened because they genuinely wanted to understand, not because listening was supposed to make women like them. They asked questions because they cared, not because someone told them active listening was attractive. Their attention wasn't a technique. It was authentic. That difference changed everything. She didn't feel pursued. She didn't feel managed. She felt genuinely seen. And in today's world, being truly seen is incredibly rare. One woman described going on a date where the guy spent the first hour doing everything right. He was funny, charming, interesting. He kept the conversation alive. Then something changed. He relaxed. She stopped trying. He leaned back. He allowed silence. Instead of performing, he simply existed. Then he made one quiet observation about her. Something incredibly specific. Something so accurate that she felt understood in a way she hadn't experienced all evening. That single moment changed how she saw him. Not because he tried harder, but because he finally stopped trying. Around conversation 398, I started calling this quality gravitational pull. Some people naturally create it, not because they're loud, not because they're dominant, but because they're deeply grounded. Conversations with them feel different, more honest, less performative. People lean in without realizing why. At the center of that magnetism is self-containment. These people don't rely on external validation to feel valuable. Their confidence isn't borrowed from compliments. It isn't destroyed by rejection. It exists independently. That's incredibly attractive because it's the opposite of neediness. Neediness turned out to be the single biggest attraction killer. Not only obvious desperation, but subtle forms most people never notice. Trying too hard to sound interesting. Constantly seeking approval. Over-explaining.com. Always trying to prove value. Managing every impression. Every one of those behaviors quietly communicates the same message. Please validate me. And that's exactly what attraction resists. The men who naturally created desire weren't chasing. They were simply being. That difference is enormous. Pursuta says, I need something from you. Being says, I'm already okay. You're welcome to join me if we connect. One creates pressure, the other creates space. And attraction grows far more icily inside space than inside pressure. The clearest example came from conversation number 406. A woman described casually dating someone for 2 months, whom she liked him, but didn't feel strong attraction. One evening, she opened up about a stressful situation at work. She became emotional. Instead of interrupting, instead of fixing, instead of giving advice, he simply stayed present, quiet, attentive, comfortable. He didn't rescue her. He didn't minimize her emotions. He didn't make the conversation about himself. He simply allowed her feelings to exist. She told me she'd never experienced anything like it. Most men either rush to solve problems or become uncomfortable with emotion. He did neither. His calm presence created such deep emotional safety that something shifted inside her. By the end of that conversation, her attraction had completely changed. Not because he used a technique, but because he wasn't afraid of emotion. That's the part almost every dating strategy misses. Attraction isn't manufactured. It's invited. It appears naturally when someone is emotionally grounded enough to create the conditions for it. When someone isn't performing, isn't managing outcomes, isn't chasing approval. By the time I finished all 500 conversations, everything finally made sense. The woman on that sidewalk had been right. My kindness wasn't the issue. My need behind the kindness was I had unknowingly made her responsible for my sense of worth. And nothing destroys attraction faster than placing someone on that pedestal. The men who inspired genuine attraction already believed in their own value. They didn't expect women to create it for them. Their worth existed long before the relationship did. After completing the project, I spent the next 3 months applying what I'd learned. I stopped performing, stopped trying to impress, stopped managing people's opinions. Instead, I practiced genuine presence. I became comfortable with silence, comfortable with emotion, comfortable with uncertainty. I stopped asking the world to tell me I mattered and started believing it without permission. The change was immediate. Conversations felt effortless. Women began reaching out first. Connection happened naturally. Months later, I unexpectedly met the same woman who had rejected me. We talked for 10 minutes. Before leaving, she smiled and asked if I'd like to grab coffee sometime. The same person who once said I was too nice now felt attracted. The irony wasn't lost on me, but something inside me had changed. I no longer needed that validation, so I politely declined. Not out of resentment, not to prove a point, simply because I'd already moved on. That was the biggest lesson from the entire experiment. You cannot fake groundedness. You cannot pretend to be self-contained. You cannot perform authenticity. People feel the difference. Real confidence isn't something you display. It's something you become. That transformation is much harder than memorizing pickup lines. It requires confronting the parts of yourself that desperately seek approval, healing them, building genuine self-worth. Because once you stop needing validation, attraction stops becoming something you chase. It becomes a natural byproduct of who you are. Not everyone will choose you. It's okay. Grounded people don't expect universal attraction. They simply allow genuine connection to happen where it naturally belongs. Looking back, those 500 conversations taught me one fundamental truth. Human beings are deeply drawn toward completeness, toward people who don't need them to feel whole, toward people whose presence creates emotional safety instead of emotional pressure. That kind of magnetism can't be learned as a tactic. It can only be developed through inner work. And maybe that's why the woman who rejected me 6 years ago unknowingly gave me the greatest gift of my life. She forced me to stop performing. She forced me to question everything. And that question eventually led me somewhere much more valuable than dating success. It led me to myself. If you've ever been told you're too nice, if you've ever wondered why doing everything right still wasn't enough, understand this. The problem probably isn't your kindness. It's whether your kindness is freely given or secretly asking for something in return. Stop chasing approval. Stop performing value. Become someone whose worth comes from within. Practice presence. Learn to sit comfortably with silence. Learn to hold emotion without fixing it. Build a life that feels complete before anyone else enters it. Because the strongest attraction doesn't come from trying harder. It comes from no longer needing to. That was the real lesson hidden inside 500 conversations. Not a trick. Not a hack. Not another dating strategy. Just one simple truth. People are naturally drawn toward those who are already whole. And once you truly become that person, attraction stops being a goal and becomes a consequence.